Welcome back to another episode of Rob Sports Center. Man, we are done with the first day of the 2025 NFL Draft, and it's been a pretty exciting one. It depends on what perspective you're looking at it from. If you're looking at it from a New Orleans Saints perspective, this has been a very disappointing first round. But if you're looking at it from a New York Giants perspective, the Jaguars perspective, they've got a lot to be happy for. But for this video, we're going to touch on Travis Hunter being drafted number 2 overall to the Jaguars. Now, this is a pretty good draft pick, man. Originally it was speculated that the number 2 pick was probably going to end up being Cleveland, which they were, but they traded down, and the Jaguars were able to get the number 2 spot. So I know Travis probably has some worries about going to a team like that. That kind of, which the thing about Cleveland, man, Cleveland has a pretty solid team, right? They're just missing the key piece, which is a quarterback. If they can get a solid quarterback, consistent quarterback play, I think that they would be actually a pretty good team. But we ain't going to talk about them right now. We focusing on Travis Hunter and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So we know that 2 years ago, the Jaguars were a phenomenal team, in terms of their performance throughout the season, getting them a playoff spot, eventually losing to, which they beat the Chargers. They was able to come back. They was able to come back from a blowout in that game to win that. But then they end up going to the next round, end up getting put out by the eventually Super Bowl champions Kansas City Chiefs. But those were steps forward in the right direction. And it's like they haven't gotten back on that path since then. I believe, was it the season before last that they actually was having a good season, but Trevor Lawrence ended up getting hurt, and it kind of took away, and it kind of killed the momentum. Obviously, losing your quarterback is not an idealistic situation. And, other than the 49ers, how many teams are able to bounce back from losing their quarterback and still be competitive enough to be in the playoffs and be in contention for a Super Bowl? So I feel like, they kind of been looking for that rejuvenation. You look at what they did last year in terms of last year's draft with drafting Brian Thomas from LSU, the wide receiver. And I think they still do have Calvin Ridley. I don't know. I'm not quite sure if he's a free agent or what. Last time I checked, I thought they still did have Calvin Ridley. But now you incorporate another guy who's a threat on both sides of the ball. Obviously, I like him more as a receiver. You know what I mean? And I think that he would kind of benefit Jacksonville probably more as a receiver because of his high IQ and just what he's able to do with the ball in his hands. If he's one of those type of guys that you get the ball in his hands in space and he's going to do what he's going to do regardless, And I know a lot of people like to say, oh, well, NFL is different from college. Yeah, you are right. Levels goes up. But my thing is this. I think Dion even said this. Dion was talking about Travis, and he was like, Travis was good in high school. Travis was good in college. So why wouldn't he continue doing what he's doing in the NFL? It might have been Charles Woodson that made that statement, I believe. But I say that to say that's facts, though. What would change from then to now? Because just like those guys are dogs, Travis Hunter is a dog, too. And we've seen that you can have guys that come in from their rookie season and immediately have an impact. I mean, look at what Odell did his first year with the Giants. Look at what look at what guys like, Mahomes did, his first year when he actually got the keys to the kingdom. You know what I mean? So you have guys that are able to come in and produce at a high level immediately. Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, man, the list kind of goes on and on. But I'm just saying that to say for the naysayers who say, oh, this ain't college, he ain't going to be as good as he was, or he's not going to be able to do half of that stuff. But overall, though, man, I do think that this is a good pick for the Jaguars. The Jaguars are not a horrible team. You know what I mean? I think that right now the Jaguars are kind of struggling to get I want to say an identity, but to get back to where they were 2 years ago, being a playoff contention. Obviously injuries, personnel being changed in terms of play callers and all those things are things that, obviously can stunt a quarterback's growth with Trevor Lawrence and, kind of be hesitant to the overall success of the team just because now you're having this guy come in and this guy's system was completely different from this guy that's coming in now system. So it kind of puts you in a very compromising position. There's not a lot of people who can just grasp onto that right away. But I think that Travis Hunter will be a breath of fresh air. You know what I mean? And just seeing a guy, we've heard from numerous people, from Dion to, his teammates that talk about his work ethic. And then you have to think about, too, I think I heard Nick Saban talking about, his condition. Travis Hunter is a very well-conditioned athlete, right? The snaps that this dude played in college was insane, on both sides of the ball. And I think he might even played a little special team. So that shows you how hard of a worker he is. And to be able to effectively play, like the thing about Travis wasn't just out there on offense. He wasn't just out there on defense. Travis was actually out there bringing value to both sides of the ball and playing it at an elite level. So that tells you that he takes his approach to the game is very serious minded. This is the type of guy that you want to see picked as a number 2 overall, or even possibly as a number 1 overall, because you do believe you're going to really get a return on your investment. I think that he's a generational talent, man. It's not too much not to like about Travis Hunter, man. You know, just his demeanor, his competitiveness, his football IQ, and just his approach to how he approaches and prepares for the game is next level, man. So I think he's going to fit right in with the International Football League. So Jaguar fans, I think that y'all might actually have something to be excited for, probably, you know, being that the last few seasons probably haven't been the best idealistic situations. You know what I mean? And you bringing in a guy like Travis that's trying to do this, that's trying to accomplish a feat that's never been done, and that's playing both sides of the ball. So that right there can just breathe life into an organization. Everybody looking at, man, look at how this dude, like, look at his work ethic. Look at how this dude approaches the game. He's the first one in, last one to leave type thing. You know, he's always working hard. He's like the hardest worker regardless. And that type of energy, it resonates within the locker room. Now everybody starts developing that method, that mentality. Everybody starts to buy into what it is that Travis is doing and the type of energy he's bringing. And now you looking at a whole new, completely different Jaguars team as a whole, not just offensively, but defensively, because he can bring that spark to the defensive side of the ball too. Now, the biggest question mark, obviously, that everybody's looking at, including myself, I'm not going to lie, is where is he going to specialize? Like, where is he going to primarily play at? You know, I see a lot of people saying that they might have him as a defensive back, a corner, and then bring him in certain packages on the offensive side of the ball, kind of in those gotta have it needed situations, you know, which I think could work too. And then you probably got some people who might feel opposite. They might feel that, I think he's going to primarily be a receiver, and then they might bring him in on nickel packages, dime packages, things like that as a defensive back. So that's a curious thing. And the young man is equally as good as at both, honestly. You know, at first I was more so leaning towards him as a receiver, but I kind of was checking out more tape and the thing about it, man, and the reason why I do like him as a corner too is because of his ball skills, but not only that, it's his IQ, man. I know he had an interception against UCLA, and I'm talking about, man, he just read that play so beautifully, man. Like, and it's like I say, when you look at this dude play, you see that it's more than just speed. It's more than just strength. It's more than just overall athleticism, man. It's his brain, his mental IQ, his understanding of the game is what makes him so lethal. You know what I mean? And for him to be able to do some of the things that he does, you know that it's more than just athleticism, man. It's having an understanding of what's going on and what a team is trying to do, and that comes from film study. So, man, I think that it's a lot to like about him. I'm so excited to see his growth, you know, in terms of what he's gonna grow on to become. We've seen what he's done at the high school level. We've seen what he's done at the college level. Now it's time to see what he's gonna do in the NFL level. So, man, I know I'm not quite sure if the Jaguars got any other picks in the first round, but just off of Travis Hunter alone, I would grade that an A, man. I'm just gonna be completely honest with you, man. I think Jaguar fans, I think y'all do got a lot to be excited about with drafting this young man. So I'm just curious to see how, you know, things play out with you guys as a whole going into the new season. But, man, if there's something that you disagree with that I said, or let me know your opinions. Let me know, do y'all think that he should be do you like him as predominantly a receiver or predominantly as a corner, or do you firmly believe that he can play both sides to an extent like how he did in college? You know, I'm curious to see you guys' take on that. But that is it for this video, man. If you did enjoy this video, man, make sure you do me a big favor, man. Smash that thumbs up button. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. And when you subscribe, make sure that you got that notification bell on, man, because the draft is going on. We got round 2 coming up, man, and I'm gonna keep dropping videos that's gonna be doing recaps and kind of covering the aftermath of the draft. So, man, stay tuned, and I'll see y'all in the next video.